5:30, and we only have an hour. Dan, are we ready to go?
1 second, it's syncing up with YouTube. And ready to go.
Thank you. All right, we're going to call to order the Narragansett Town Council work session meeting, January 25th, 2021, 5:30 p.m. This is a work session with the Galilee Lease Advisory Committee regarding a development proposal for plat IG lots 118S, 119S, 120S, 307 Great Island Road. So what we're going to be doing tonight is watching a presentation from from PRIX. We also have Rhode Island DEM on tonight. We just wanted to hold this workshop so that the public could get a little more information on the proposal for that property in Galilee, so that the council could weigh in and just add a little bit of transparency to the process and let everyone kind of have a better idea of what's planned for that property. So we do have Eva with us, who is on the Galilee Lease Advisory Committee, and then we have the town manager, who is also a liaison to that committee. So what I want to do is start by handing it off to the town manager, Jim Tierney, who could give us a little overview of what we're going to be doing tonight, and then we can go from there. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Just a brief introduction on this. It's the plot of land that we all know as a Lighthouse Inn or the old Dutch Inn. And DEM has been working with the developer who has a long-term lease on that state-owned land. They had proposed a project pre-COVID, I would call it, that was a little bit more expansive than the current scaled-down one. It's a significant piece of property in the town, and I felt when we met with them on the board that this should be something that should be reviewed by the entire council. Even though we're advisory, I think it's important that we get it out there so that the people who live in town know what the project's all about and the council knows what it's all about. Thank you.
Jim. The way we're going to run this is we're going to hear from the Prakashanti group. After that presentation, we'll go to the council for some comments and thoughts. And then, time permitting, we will go to the public for comments. We only have until about 6:25 tonight because we have a workshop at 6:30. So that'll be the process. Jim, who do we have, or I guess Jim or Terry, who do we have on the Zoom tonight to speak from the developer side?
Not sure who they have doing it.
Oh, okay, I see it. Sorry about that. So we have Nick.
Nick.
His hand up. So what? And then we have Mary Kay from DEM as well.
Correct.
So why don't we start with Mary Kay?
Jesse, I just brought them in as panelists, a little easier to work with.
Okay, great. Okay, actually, so we could go whichever order makes sense. So Mary Kay or Nick, whoever thinks it makes the most sense to start off. Go ahead. Feel free to begin. And thank you for being on tonight as well.
Hey, Jesse, perhaps Mary Kay could identify the other participants so they could be put in as a panelist as well. That way, Dan won't have to be switching back and forth, the actual DEM and Prakashanti people.
Sounds good.
You guys waiting on me or?
Is Mary Kay off the panelist now?
She is. I wonder where she went.
Okay. Well, why don't we just, for now, why don't we go ahead and start with Nick, and you can give us an overview of what you guys.
Yeah, no problem. So as you guys know, we've had the Lighthouse Inn for some time. We've obviously looked at this for a lot of different renditions and what we could obviously put there that was viable, obviously financially, but also what was good for Galilee and Narragansett. So obviously, as you know, we had that previous pre-COVID plan.
Actually, Nick, this is Mary. Would you mind if I maybe started out giving
No, absolutely. Yeah,
brief
absolutely.
introduction? I couldn't
Go
get
right ahead.
in before, just a little bit, because I know there's some new people on the council that might not be, totally familiar with the way the property interests are held in Galley. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
No, go right ahead, Mary. No problem.
Okay. So Galilee is made up of several parcels that were condemned in different condemnations in the 1940s to create a commercial fishing port. And it's kind of a unique situation. It has been operated as a fishing port since that time. The state owns the land and has a significant investment and continues to have a significant investment. We're making huge investments right now in the piers, in the bulkhead, and the basic infrastructure in the port. The way we operate is by statute and by Rhode Island law is that we own the land, the state owns the land, and businesses, as you probably know, you've all been down there. There's various businesses down there, everywhere from like a little bait shop to some gift shops to, commercial fishing processors that, have a very, very significant investment in business. And the businesses, because they own the buildings, they actually finance and build the properties, the buildings, and maintain them on the state-owned property. So it's a very unique situation. And this parcel that was developed with a hotel room back in the 1950s that was to support, there was like this huge tuna tournament every year. Some of you may know that have lived in Galilee for a long time. So that was the impetus for building a hotel. There aren't any more huge tuna tournaments. So the hotel has been operated primarily as a seasonal business by various tenants who took over that property over the last 50, 60 years. And the current tenant bought this property, PRIX bought this property in, I believe it was like right around 2000, a little after 2000. And they assumed the lease on the property, and they have been operating the seasonal hotel over the years. Several years ago, it was actually 2017, they suggested that they said they could no longer feasibly run the hotel. It just wasn't making it a seasonal building. It needed too much renovation. So they had proposed at that time to do a full demolition of the building and convert all the entire parcel to parking, which, as you know, is sorely, sorely needed in Galilee. We went in front of the Galilee Advisory Committee at that time, and members of the public and the town had reservations about converting it entirely to parking, and suggested that the tenant come back with a proposal that would have some kind of mixed-use building on the property. The economy was a little different then, and the tenant, who is PRIX, wanted to see if they could find partners to put in like a large restaurant kind of building. They went out and they didn't find, any interest, because again, people thought it was a seasonal nature of Galilee for large uses. They also ran into a number of stumbling blocks with CRMC and with the state building official about what would be required to actually build and the amount of investment that would be required to build in that area. So they've come back again at their cost. It will be at totally their cost. They are making a proposal to demo part of the building. and rehab part of it into some type of mixed use or commercial office space. And Nick will talk about that anymore. We'll talk about that a little bit more in more detail. As you know, Galilee is very important to both the state and the town of Narragansett. The fish landed in Galilee have over $68 million in value. The rates, all of the rates for, just so you know, the rental rates are all set by appraisal. There's due to be another appraisal this year. And it basically, the parcels depend on where they're located. The parcels that are near the bulkhead have a higher value and a higher rental rate than the ones that are across the street. When they came to us with their new proposal, they talked a lot about, how the economics had changed. And we are quite anxious. We're very concerned about the condition of that building. We would like to see it renovated or demolished and be made as, as part something useful, and also a gateway, an attractive gateway into the Port of Galilee. We went back to them with our comments, and they have come back and enhanced not only the aesthetics of the building, but have added a lot more landscaping and more of the features that we had suggested that would lend itself as a gateway into the Port of Galilee. We know the council turned over in Narragansett, and we certainly want your input. We want input from this workshop from members of the public. We want to make this project the best that it can be. But at the same time, we're concerned. We would like to. We lost last year's season for mostly because of COVID and other reasons. The inside of the building is not at all, in a condition that would be usable under any circumstances. And we really would like to see if we can do something that would facilitate this project being completed for this year's season. So the parking area would be improved and landscaped. There could potentially be some businesses that would go into this new retail space. And we would all, I think, have something that we would be very proud that we had, made this and, been successful in making these improvements. The site has not been in good shape. It hasn't been operated for a few years now. And the developers doing this all at their own funding. There's no state funding available for this. I don't think there's, I don't think there's any local funding. So this is a project that, is being entirely funded by them. And I will let Nick tell you, talk to you about the specifics of the project. And we thank you for this opportunity tonight to present this.
Thanks, Mary. Appreciate it. So as everyone knows, the Lighthouse is a large hotel that takes up a majority of the parcel. We went through a bunch of different renditions and kind of came up with this one plan that we thought was economically feasible, but also really kind of gave a really nice design to Galilee and to that area. So what we're proposing is to demolish the rear portion of the hotel, leave the front portion, which sits on the Great Island connector, the Great Island Road, and then obviously give it a substantial facelift and make it so there's multiple retail spaces. So obviously we'd be demolishing a good portion of the hotel, revamping the parking lots, lighting, gravel, all the the niceties that are necessary for the parking. And then in addition, really give the front of this building a really nice facelift, colonial style design, and obviously the landscaping, et cetera. I'll share my screen if you guys are, if I can, and I'll show you some of the stuff that we're kind of looking at doing. Hold on. For some reason, it's not letting me.
While we're waiting for that, can I ask the speakers to please state their name and their position or who they're affiliated with for the benefit of the other listeners?
So while Nick's doing that, I'll introduce myself again, Mary Kay. I'm the Assistant Director and Chief Legal Counsel for the Department of Environmental Management, and I have been working with the Division of Coastal Resources and the Galley Lease Advisory Committee for 25 years or more.
Terry or Dan, is there anything that we need to do to let? Oh,
No, he should be all set.
Yeah, can you guys see the
we can.
Yes.
rendering? Yeah, so if you're taking a look at this is the front of the existing Lighthouse Hotel. So obviously the way, if you know the existing building, it kind of goes into the parking area and then has kind of like an L-shaped. So basically the design and to obviously to keep everything financially feasible, we kind of came up with a plan to kind of try to keep as much of the existing building and give it a really nice, facelift. Obviously we have to go in and pretty much gut the thing back to the studs for the most part. But, as you can see, I mean, it eliminates the back kind of rundown area of the hotel. And then obviously, we keep the existing structure and then obviously modify it with the gabled roofs, obviously the stone veneer on the front, and give it these 4 or 5 retail spaces that kind of really brighten the area. So that's that one. I'll share the can you guys see that?
Yes.
So that's basically kind of like a streetscape of the kind of like a landscaping plan. So we really want to make it pop, put the benches, have have all the trees and the plantings associated with a really nice entrance to the site. So really creating an atmosphere where you have some curb appeal as well as the redesigned front of the existing hotel, and then to give it a real pop versus kind of a rundown old hotel, to be frank. Then I'll obviously show you the site plan. So can you guys see the site plan?
Yep, we can see it.
Yeah, so if you look closely, or if you want me to zoom in, you can kind of see where we were talking about. If you can see my cursor, you can kind of see the landscaped areas, the two curb cuts, and then if you look really close, you can kind of see the outline of the existing building. So you can kind of see how it really follows. If you can kind of see my cursor along, and then kind of has this jog to the left. I mean, that's realistically, and we're looking at demolishing all of that, and obviously putting in some really nice, parked area, as well as a nice retail plaza in the front that I think we can really be proud of. So, any questions or comments?
Nick, I have a question. Can I
Sure.
just ask you the retail space? What I couldn't just see what they were. What would those shops be?
I mean, it's kind of we obviously, once we get approval, we'll obviously go around and start to, try to secure some tenants. But to be honest with you, I think any place that has coffee or muffins, I mean, there's not really an opportunity to have any type of food. There's no real food destination down there besides going to sit at a restaurant. So I think that would be, a clear tenant for one of the spaces, but we're not 100% sure yet of what the tenant mix will be. Obviously, once we get approval from you folks, as well as the state, we'll start to procure some tenant
Okay.
would occupy.
And then I just had a follow-up with the parking, about how much additional parking. So it's a downsized project from last time. What would be the additional parking in the Portugal?
I believe we added 151 spaces after the demolition of the building. It's on the plan somewhere. So it's total 544 spaces, including the retail space. But I believe we increased it to 150 spaces.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a question, Nick.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. The parking, I'm assuming you pay for parking. Do you have any idea what the cost of that is gonna be?
To be honest with you, I'm not too sure. We have a parking division here at the Proc Group that runs our parking lots. I mean, it's probably, I'm assuming it's been in line with whatever the parking in that area has been.
Right.
The ranges. I don't know off the top of my head. I could always get back to you, but I don't have the answer to that.
Well, will it be a closed system? So during the winter, you'd have to pay to park down there?
I'm not too sure. So right now, I think it's open, the way it currently states today, but I'm not 100% sure how they want to operate that as of now. It will be, we are looking at putting in parking arms. I know that basically, obviously, to enter the parking area, and then obviously on the way out. So you take your ticket, obviously the clock runs, and then you pay on your way out. So I know we're looking at doing a fully automated system, but as far as how they run it in the winter, I'm not 100% on what the proposal is at this point.
Patrick, that's a good question because that matters too, right? If it's closed or open parking, I'd be interested to know that as well.
Yeah, it's kind of important when you have
Yeah,
500
would
parking
think so.
spaces down there. I mean,
Yeah,
that seems
yeah.
like to be the.
Yeah, that'd be good information to have, Nick.
Yeah, we can get back to you with that. That's easy enough. We can follow up an email.
All right,
Hi,
thank you.
this is Mary Kay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, the parking rates down there are all set and approved by DEM. Everybody has to charge the same amount. I believe now it's $15 on weekends and $10 on weekdays. And right now, I don't think we have any plans to change that, but we want consistency at all of the lots down here. So they would not be allowed to set their own rates.
Well, would it be open during the winter? Do you think?
I think that's something Nick has to check on and get back to.
All right.
Yeah, that's just an operational question. I just don't have the answer for that.
A couple quick questions for you, Nick. What's the square footage of the proposed retail unit?
I want to say it's around 5,000 feet, 5,000 or 6,000 feet.
It might be, yeah, might be on one of the other plans.
Yeah, I'm just looking around to see. Hold on give me 1 second. It's 8,000 feet.
8,000. Okay. And then when you say fully automated parking, so would that would not be staffed by humans? It would be totally automated.
There'll be we'll have staff there obviously during the busier times, clearly during the summer, to make sure log jams or any type of issues with the machinery. But yeah, I mean, it's meant to pull a ticket, the arm goes up, and then obviously you stay, and then obviously on your way out, it tells you you've been here for 2 days, and that's how it charges you.
Okay, so maybe a couple of attendants every once in a while.
Yeah, there'll be yeah. Like I said, we have our parking group 365 that manages and run these lots for us. Yep.
Okay, and so I saw the proposal from last year, which was more of I don't know if that was an event venue with some retail or if that was a restaurant or banquet hall. It was that raised building.
Yep.
So what was the reasoning behind moving away from that proposal?
I mean, the cost, I mean, when you start getting into the feasibility, number one, there's no one to rent it. Unfortunately, we haven't ran into any, there's no tenants. I mean, we went out to all the major restaurateurs. I mean, obviously COVID just killed the restaurant industry, as we all know. So we went out to everyone, and we didn't get really any takers. And in addition, obviously there's some substantial costs on having to raise that building. I mean, when you demolish the entire building, it triggers different building requirements. So obviously, not having to raise the whole thing on the floodplain was kind of one of the reasons. It's really not a leisure area. So at the end of the day, there was no tenants. So we were spending a substantial amount of money we had no takers. So it was just kind of really that simple. As Mary stated, we don't. There's no real funding. This is 100% funded privately. So, obviously my bosses want to see, a good product, but at the end of the day, we obviously need to have somewhat of a return on investment.
Yeah, I mean, I can appreciate that. The thing about this, when you look at it, especially from the overhead, is it is really close to basically just being a parking lot, which was that original proposal from a few years ago. That's kind of where we've circled back to, which is really a parking lot with kind of this token retail set up at the beginning, at the front of it. Which is, if we're looking for opinions, if you want to get the opinions of the council, to me, it's pretty underwhelming, just from a resident living in town and kind of wanting that area to be somewhat revitalized, to get back to what it was a few decades ago. So that's kind of my stance on it. But I understand where you guys are coming from. Obviously, you're in it to make money.
Well, it's just everything's just a catch-22, so it's really tough. Like, I mean, we were excited about the the Ray's restaurant and the way we had it designed, and we went through a bunch of different charrettes and really talked it up. But at the end of the day, it was just you can't go spend millions of dollars and not have anybody to take it. So the problem is that we end up being in the same scenario where now we put a nice pretty building there, and then there's no one to occupy it and use it. And then all of a sudden it goes vacant, and we kind of wanted to stay away from, repeating a vicious cycle.
Okay. I know there was a group in town here called the Friends of Galilee that were working on privately, some different proposals and ideas for that area. So I do want to make sure that after the rest of the council speaks, that we have time to go to the public and perhaps hear from them as well. So why don't we go to the rest of the council members, and then we'll check with the public to see who.
Yeah, so I actually had some things that I had put together for tonight. As you all know, I was appointed to this to the committee on the December 7th, and shortly after I was appointed, I was requested to have one of these meetings with GM and the developer, and it was short, like days after, and so I did get the one of the renderings, and it was different, and then the day or so before we met, I got the different version. So Jim Tierney and I, the town manager, were on the call, and we recommended the workshop because the proposal is dramatically different. So we wanted the public feedback, and I was uncomfortable at that time even recommending this development proposal to move forward in its current state, because I did attend some of the Friends of Galilee meetings. I remember the intent was to have a boutique hotel, and I followed that, and all of a sudden it was so different. So I did go back and I listened that day. So I didn't really have much feedback that day. So I was processing everything. So I like to kind of research things and come up with some thoughts. So I'm just going to go over some of the thoughts and feelings that I had. I'll be concise with my points here. But I would like to address them because I know a lot of the committee members also reached out to me and they were concerned with this new proposal. So again, the proposal is dramatically different from the original proposal. And the new proposal is essentially a paved parking lot. And I think the developer is proposing to salvage a portion of the old structure, leaving an unusual orientation to the existing right-of-way that is more typical of a suburban strip center. And the overall development plan is very underwhelming and barely contributes to the fabric of the Galilee Village. I think the community aspires to see a better village center concept that contributes to the area with a slightly higher intensity of use or potentially multiple uses. I think the goal is to develop the frontage along Great Island Road with a development that fits the character of the village center, creates an exciting pedestrian realm, and is complementary to the surrounding retail uses, fishing port, and service industries that define the character of this area. I recommend a focus on streetscape enhancements that will activate the frontage to be very pedestrian friendly. If parking could be oriented to the rear of the development or on street, maybe there's an opportunity for a public plaza that could host seafood markets and other events. Note that the floor area ratio that they're proposing is very low for the size and location of the parcel. The concept to do a strip center with parking in front seems inappropriate and more suited to a suburban environment. Given the large size of the parcel, it seems like an exceptionally low intensity of use, and I would suggest reconsidering a more appropriate program of uses. Like retail on the ground level is appropriate, but it'd be nice to see 2 stories perhaps with offices or other uses above. It was stated the cost to meet current building codes within proximity of the coastline limits the development potential. I think that's because the developer seems to be proposing such a meager development because real interest is to create only a parking lot. We know that parking is lucrative in that area. And I have a few questions also. Have the terms of the original lease agreement been followed? If not, should this development be allowed to renew? The lighthouse and deteriorated and was left in an unmanaged abandoned state. Perhaps that state might consider doing an RFP to find a developer more willing to propose a suitable development that better fits the town's interest before signing a lease extension that already hasn't been. And are you, is the developer planning to manage how is the developer planning to manage stormwater runoff for a parking lot that size? No diagrams or concepts were previously shown how stormwater will be managed on site. So those were some of the issues and comments and questions that I had in terms of the meeting that we had. When we had, it was a public meeting, but it was a quick meeting. I don't think much of the public was in attendance, and I think a lot of people didn't know of it. So again, so those are my comments and feedback, being a member of the advisory, the town council member on that advisory group. Thank you.
Could I ask one other question, Nick?
Yeah, sure.
Are there any public bathrooms? Is it going to be access for the public to use? Are there any restrooms on the property?
We haven't got that far, but I'm sure we can. I don't think that's a big thing to incorporate. I'm sure we can figure that out. I need to get back the comment about paving. I mean, we're not paving the lot. I mean, it's not paved currently, so it would be. I mean, as far as runoff and drainage, I mean, you're basically it's going to penetrate right into the ground because you're going to have gravel or whatnot. Basically the same parking materials we have now to parking lot. It's not a paved lot. So as far as runoff, I mean, you're kind of creating a better scenario because you're getting rid of impervious at the end of the day. So, I mean, in that regard, I mean, the real question here is, I mean, there's 90 days a year to make money, unfortunately. And it's just very hard to make a significant investment, you know, in the multi-million-dollar ranges, you know, without having any type of idea on how you get made whole on the deal. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, it's you know, we're trying to get rid of something that's been run down and obviously it's an eyesore, make something that's viable to the community, obviously beautify the area. You know, we're obviously when there's less rooftop, you have less runoff. So, I mean, we're creating a better scenario from a stormwater management plan. But yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, we've talked to everyone about this, and if we've looked at a lot of different opportunities and a lot of different ways that we could try to develop this, and it's just there's just not, you just don't have a lot of option because you don't have it's all seasonality and it's commercial fishing. It's not very leisurely, so it really kind of limits what you can really put here. It has any type of viability, unfortunately. So.
You know, you say that, but it makes me wonder that, you know, this is an opportunity to do something to possibly extend the season, to possibly bring people there. I mean, some of the points that Eva made, I was thinking when she was talking that, you know, you could have at least through, you know, we're living in a time when it's warmer on both ends of the season. So the season that you're talking about, the 90-day season. So, I mean, you could have a space that would allow for, you know, concerts on a certain night or something like that. And so it is a little disappointing that there wasn't any thought to the possibility of expanding the season, you know, using some of this space. And was there ever any thought about that?
I mean, obviously we've looked, like I said, we looked at a multitude of different opportunities. I mean, it's obviously the surrounding area is what lends to what brings people to that area. So, I mean, it's kind of hard to say that us changing that, is kind of the only viable way to do this. At the end of the day, I mean, we're really looking to make something here that works for everybody, to be honest with you. But
okay, so I guess I have one more comment, and then if it's all right with the other council members, we'll go to the public so they get a chance to weigh in on this. What is the remaining time on this lease? That could be Mary or Nick who wants to answer that.
Mary, I'll let you take that.
You're muted right now.
Yeah, I got it. So this lease it's 5 years with a number of 5-year options. So the actual number of options they have left under this lease would run the lease out to 2041. That's the current lease. They are up for an option renewal this year, and that's why it's also a good time to specify exactly what investments they are going to make in the property to continue, because it is no longer being used, as you know, as a motel, which was the original uses under the lease were for a motel and a parking lot. So, but they legally have a total term that would run out to 2041.
Okay, and did you say that option is the leasee's option or the?
They notify us of an intent to exercise their option. And then we, as a matter of course, usually approve it. In most cases in Galilee, as is the case here, there also is open financing on the property that we have entered into tripartite agreements on. So that would specify that the state would have to undertake certain things if they were going to cancel the lease. So that gets into a kind of a complicated scenario. We can't just, well, I don't want to comment on the legalities of it right now. Because I'm hoping we'll end up in a good place and get this lot developed in a way that everybody feels that it's an improvement, a significant improvement to the town, and not end up in a situation where, there may be litigation or something else over the legal terms of the lease.
Okay, thank you.
But if question.
Go ahead, Eva. That's fine.
So I just had a question. So if the current developer or leasing doesn't feel that it's really profitable to do anything, or doesn't want to take on the risk of, building a boutique hotel or something else because, of COVID or I mean, I get it. The economy, it's been tough on everything. But if there are interested parties out there that would actually want to develop something that, Galilee, it would be, more in tune of what the Friends of Galilee or had envisioned or a compromise somewhere in between there. Is that something that we would seek for, be able to get and get options of being able to do that?
So right now we have a landlord-tenant relationship with PRIX, and the only way we could go out, force them, or we couldn't force them, but or the state could go out for a new RFP for other tenants on that property would be if they, opted to terminate the lease or the lease was terminated in some other manner.
Or if that option, this latest option, was not granted, right?
Well, as I said, I don't want to comment on the legalities of it, but they do have right now, they have a legal tenancy and they have additional option periods.
Okay. All right. So, I think really the question is for, I guess for the state is if they want something in that space that benefits the town and the residents of Narragansett, or if it's really something that benefits just the developer, which would be the parking lot, which would benefit the developer in terms of revenue and then would benefit Black Island Ferry, of course, to add that parking, but it doesn't really do much for the people in town. That's the point. But why don't we see who would like to speak from the public? Anyone who'd like to speak, just raise your hand. And please keep your comments to the point. And
Jesse, I had a couple questions before we got cranked in.
all right, we
dialed
have
in.
about 13 minutes left.
All right. One, Nick, that building's in a flood zone. That's not above the floodplain, is it? That building, the new building?
No, I mean, there's obviously a grandfathered formula. That's right. That's the real issue with developing this site. I mean, if we end up going into, if we knock everything down, everything has to go on the floodplain.
Right.
In your
Right. I'm surprised the state would let you build something ground level like that, because being in a floodplain like that. And then the other question I have, did you have this on the market like 3 years ago? And you did receive offers, didn't you?
I'm sure it was on the market. I honestly wasn't with the company 3 years ago. So I mean, I've only been here about 2 years.
Right.
So I can't answer that question, but
Okay. All right.
I'm sure it's been
Thank you.
marketed.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Nick and Mary. So Dan, why don't we start with public comment? It looks like we have Gina Jarama.
Hi, this is Gina Jarama. I live in Narragansett. I just wanted to commend the public workshop because this is really important. One of the things that I heard the developer mention was the feasibility of the business. I understand that there's a need for parking in Galilee, but there's also a need for other amenities on that property. And so for our purposes, we expect that the developer is going to do his due diligence in understanding the needs of the community, rightfully so, Galilee. A boutique hotel is actually a great idea. I've worked in the hotels in South County for 6 years now, and there is no season. I mean, the hotels are full all season. There are people who stay in these hotels who have to catch a boat at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they would love to be in Galilee, not on Route 1 in South Kingstown. And so if you keep, your first floor retail, mixed retail, and then you build a second and third floor with a small hotel, that is absolutely going to benefit the community more than just, a large parking lot. And I get it's not going to be paved. It's definitely gravel. However, the parking can subsidize the minimal loss that might happen in the shoulder seasons and in the off season. But the more people want to travel to this community, the more you're going to not have empty hotel rooms, and you're going to need more. There are going to be needs for more hotel rooms. So, redeveloping that without a hotel makes absolutely no sense. And I don't think anybody should think that would be a good plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Dan, can we turn off the screen share? I got a couple texts for people saying they weren't able to raise their hand while the screen share was up. I don't know. So we'll see. Thank you. All right, who do we have next, Dan?
Next is Thomas Mann.
Tom, please state your full name and address.
Thomas Mann, 65 Oak Hill Road. I've studied, land use and planning. I have a master's in urban planning and architecture. And one thing I've learned about developing urban centers is the best way to kill a village center is to turn the frontage into parking lots. And I understand the limitations with the floodplain, and I understand why they're proposing to orient the building in the manner they are, what's left of the building. But it's really that development pattern is very destructive to a village center. And I think if you can't get a hotel or a boutique hotel, I know that's a very difficult program to find a right partner, but you could do other developments and better utilize the frontage of Great Island Road. by orienting the building closer to the right of way or getting rid of the strip parking on the sidewalk, because that's what really kills town centers. Let me reiterate that. So I think if you could find a way to, whether it's through use of a larger sidewalk and a plaza type concept, even with temporary structures and events that could be done on that, but to also consider a second story on the existing floor plate of that building and just better activate the public realm in there. I think that the town would be willing, I'm sure, more people would be willing to work with the development partner if there was a commitment to just better develop that area that's directly fronting Great Island Road, and then you get your parking lot. I think most people can appreciate the need for parking down there, but we're also really looking for a great village center, and that is the heart of the whole Galilee Port. So, if the state's listening, I hope you understand how important this little village center is to the residents of Narragansett who live here and frequent there, but also to the visitors and the people who work there and make their living there. And we deserve to have a great place. And, putting just a strip mall in the heart of our village center is I think, not showing the best due diligence in creating a great place to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Meg McGee.
Hi, Meg. Please state your full name and address.
Actually, I'm using her iPad. My name is Drew McGee. I'm her husband. I'm a member of the Galilee Advisory
Drew,
Committee.
what's your address?
28 Starfish Drive, Great Island.
Thank you.
And I'm a member of the Galilee Advisory Committee. And I've also been involved with the Friends of Galilee. And so I've been involved with some of these meetings with Nick particularly. And the original plan was for almost a 14,000 square foot building that had some retail and then had a restaurant and kind of almost convention area. And the agreement at that time was there would be no net increase in parking, because I don't think the local people have that big a desire to have more parking, especially when you saw what happened this summer when there was tons of traffic on the escape road, drunk drivers, speeders. The garbage after the 4th of July was an embarrassment. So just to have a parking lot to bring more people down here doesn't make a lot of sense. And the Friends of Galilee were totally against that. The group, was dead set against it becoming just a parking lot. And with some of the new developments that are going on in Block Island, I could see why some people would want even more parking in Galilee, but that does nothing for the town but increase the traffic. That traffic flow for the 90 days, which is actually more than 90 days in the summer, is unbelievable. I mean, sometimes you can't even get off the escape road and get onto the main road. So that part of the plan does absolutely nothing for the town, in my opinion. And Nick, you talked about the development. The plan you showed us was 600 square foot retail offices for a total of 2,400 square feet. So I guess when you talk about the 8,000 square feet, you're considering parking or something with that. But and then there's no control over what those 4 retail stores will be. I mean, it could be a liquor store for all we know, and that's just what we need: more drinking on the ferry and more drinking after people get off the ferry. So, the retail space down there is really not much of an effort compared to your first proposal. And I just think we ought to think a little bit more about the police down there, the traffic pattern down there, that actually does affect us as people of this town, and especially the people on Great Island. But I thought last summer was, extremely bad with the traffic and the way people behaved. Thanks very much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Drew. Dan, who do we have next?
Next is Kathleen.
Hi, Kathleen. Please state your full name and address, and if you could keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, my name's Kathleen Krikorian. I'm at 30 Starfish Drive on Great Island, and I also own the Boathouse, which is the retail store directly next to this proposed property change. Again, I'm looking at 90 days worth of business also. And Nick, if you go ahead and put a couple more boutique retail stores in there, my struggle becomes even heavier than what it's been over the last 13 years that we've been there. We've improved our building with new roofs and new siding and made ourselves stay to date with code and appearance there also. I'm just very concerned about adding more parking down there too. I think a big misconception from a lot of folks that I speak to regarding more parking, bringing more people down there, they think, well, your business must really thrive when that happens. But that is so not the case. What happens is the people drive in, park their car, get in line, get on the boat, get over there, spend all their money on whatever they need there, come back and go right to their cars and leave. So not only is more parking not going to help me, but yes, again, the traffic in front of the store, the traffic that gets backed up on Great Island Road, all of that is, and I mean the beer bottles in the back of my store when I come back in on Sunday morning after a Saturday night. And we worked a lot more hours last year, and I hired more people just to try and make up for the COVID loss we felt we were gonna come into. So we were closing at 10 o'clock at night. So I don't know who was back there after we closed, but there's just a lot of riffraff down there with big extra parking lots and tons of cars and so on. So, and I agree. I think another strip center, and of course I've been in retail my whole life. So I've been in malls. I know what strip centers are like. It is underwhelming. I think the word underwhelming for your proposal is absolutely true for what needs to be done with that property down there. So thank you. That's my say.
Thank you, Kathleen. Dan, looks like we have one more hand left up.
We do. It's Teresa Tanzi.
Hey, Teresa, please state your full name and address.
Sure. Teresa Tanzi, State Representative for Narragansett and South Kingstown. I'll quickly go through the questions that I have, and then either Mary Kay or Nick Giacobbe can respond to them. I'm wondering who has control over who the sub-lessees are. So should it become this rendition that you've proposed, who ultimately decides who the occupants will be? Do they still have to fit to the original fishing industry ties as the entirety of the property does? And I'm wondering also what the original square footage of the hotel is. And I thought those two might be for Mary. And then for Nick, when were the charrettes? How many were there? And who attended? Because it's hard to believe that there wasn't anyone who was interested in entering into a development with the Prakashanti group, who has an excellent reputation. And this is a prime spot for so many people who I think are clamoring to get into this business. And I'm not sure who this would be for, but according to the second rendition that you showed, the exit as to where the parking would exit from, I couldn't see it in the time that it was up on the screen. I'm wondering if that exit goes out the backside of the one-way, completely bypassing all of the other businesses that are in Galilee, which would be a huge disservice to the rest of the businesses that are there, that people would just come in. It really would just be a parking lot then. They would have no opportunity to make use of the rest of Galilee. And I can't agree more with Tom and Eva about the bigger sidewalks and the businesses being front-facing. Clearly a way to engage more people, make it the streetscape, make it much more inviting for people. A parking lot is like a desert, especially in the hot summer. So thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Mary or Nick, if you're interested in responding.
Yeah, I can. The DEM can require that we would have to approve any of the subtenants. That's certainly something we could require. Nick's plans probably show what the square footage of the existing building that's on the property. So I would defer to him on that issue, and also on how the traffic flow pattern is proposed to work.
Yeah, so the exit would be on the Great Island Connector Road. So basically, when you pulled into the site and then followed the parking out, you would end up jumping on the connector road, not the Great Island Connector Road. That would be how you'd exit. So you'd enter obviously one of the curb cuts on the Great Island Road, and then the connector would be the exit. Just like any parking lots. I honestly don't know the existing square footage of the hotel. Again, I can get back to you on that. I mean, it's 2 levels. There's a pool. I mean, it's in terrible condition. It's obviously, almost in disarray. But yeah, I mean, the parking, obviously, you kind of, like I said, you pull into the curb cut, and then obviously you go through the automated and leave on the Great Island Connector.
I just think that does a huge disservice to the rest of Galilee. And the one question that wasn't answered was, when were the charrettes? How many were there, and who attended?
I mean, we've been working with DEM, the state. We've been working with all the different parties. We went out to multiple private companies, restaurant companies. Some of them which hold restaurants on Block Island, some of them that hold restaurants in Narragansett, Newport restaurant groups, all different groups to try to get some type of tenant interest there. I mean, at the end of the day, it's unfortunate, but we're not bigger than the market, and we can only do what's feasible and available to us.
And what was the time frame for those charrettes?
Oh, I mean, this has been going on over a year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it looks like that's about it time-wise. I just want to thank Mary and Nick for taking the time to be with us tonight. We appreciate it. And thanks to Jim and Terry for organizing. And we'll be following up and working with you all, hopefully. And hopefully you'll take the town's input into account when you make these decisions as well. So, thank you all.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.